Hi, everybody. Welcome to the 25th edition of the Fantasia International Film Festival, online again this year via the Shift 72 platform. We're very, very happy to have with us today, although virtually, the director and director of Tin Can, Seth A. Smith, and the film's producer, Nancy Urich. Welcome and hello. It's really nice to see you both and meet you both virtually. How are you?
Good, good. Thanks for having us, Ariel. Thanks for watching the film, and yeah, we're excited to be in virtual Montreal.
Of course. I wanted to start. I was really taken by the movie, and it's kind of funny because as I was sitting down to prep this talk, I ended up rewatching the whole thing. It's such a kind of entrancing film, and I'm very happy to have it as part of the Camera Lucida lineup. Um, I wanted to start maybe with the elephant in the room, which is, although the film was conceived pre-COVID, I believe you wrapped the shoot in, I think was April or May of 2019, correct? The film speaks so much to current events to an eerie degree, and so I was kind of wondering how you navigated the real world parallel between the film and what's happening right now, and if anything changed during post in that context.
Oh, we sure were left with a lot of hazmat suits, so we felt a little good about that, I
guess. We did offer them to the province.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah. I was really scared because we made the movie and I was like, oh my God, it's coming to get us. And we literally didn't leave the house the entire time of the pandemic. We still haven't. I mean, we're here now. So.
I find every time we write a script, there's some element that comes true. I guess I wasn't expecting that. But at least it's not, it hasn't kind of fulfilled its prophecy in the same way.
Well, and at least ours is, it's a different disease. So a little more fun, maybe.
I don't know. Yeah, we were, I think, there wasn't a huge amount of post left to do when we kind of started locking down. It was just finishing effects shots and, at that point, it's too late to be like, oh, people, wear their gloves this way now. Okay, interesting. A lot of our suits and stuff had to be, made out of shower curtains and made by designers, which were cool. But it's like, yeah, I remember getting a text that summer. Everything's so available now. We gotta make all this stuff.
I really enjoyed when the pandemic first started. Well, I mean, not enjoyed, but but when the internet was showing people putting pot lids in their hoodies and wearing bottles over their heads, because when we did the plastic Sobeys bag on people's heads, we thought that was hilarious at the time, and then people came up with much crazier things. So it was pretty funny to watch that unveil, how people really were going to act about that. So.
Yeah, there's definitely
I think in a way, Nancy, you're talking about today how the production of the film, we were kind of locked in this, we were in a warehouse and we had to, it was very much a studio kind of vibe where we had to close off all the light, and you kind of, in a way, felt like you were quarantining with a bunch of people in this kind of sci-fi dungeon or something. So,
and then the post was even worse because we were here in our house, just the two of us, in our basement, and it really felt like we were locked in. And then the pandemic started. It
felt like our pandemic though kind of started a little early.
Yeah, ours started in 2019 for sure.
Yeah. That was my follow-up question. In fact, is so you always plan to shoot in this sort of kind of isolated studio-like kind of conditions. What challenges did that pose to the production?
The biggest challenge with a film like this is just everything has to be created. There were a few flashbacks with real world elements, but even then there was a fake pandemic. So it's just, we just really had to, there was a lot of building, stuff, things that didn't exist, and we it was still a very small budget. So, but yeah, I don't know. It was the first time actually. I think we did a little test. We did a little music video for Zon, which was kind of a proof of concept, and we did that in just my art studio, and but this was kind of in a way the first studio kind of film we made.
Yeah, it was kind of just the nature of the beast that it had to be dark in there. We had a small crew because we could only afford a small crew, and it was cold because it was winter, and
that was a little challenging.
Nova Scotia heat. We had to turn the heat off actually because it was making a noise that was going into the sound guy's microphone that he didn't like. So
intermittently we had to turn the heat off and on. Yeah, the actors were real champs about it all. But it was fun though, just getting to build all that stuff and kind of living in the space. Also with the space, we did a lot of recording with this sound guy, and actually Chick White, one of the actors, and the props, Cassie Seaboard, one of the costumes. We were doing recording some sounds to later be used in the soundtrack, just to get some organic kind of, I don't know, environmental sounds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm really fascinated by that sort of the built aspect of the film, and the sort of how designed it is, and one of my favorite aspects is these sort of the abstract cross section shots of the pod. These sort of stepping outside, and the ways that you find to always kind of keep it interesting and to sort of confine space. And can you talk a bit about that aspect of the production, like how to not only navigate that space, but kind of to build something that's visually interesting around it?
Yeah. I mean, the cross section thing, I mean, it's kind of like a thing I've kind of done over the last few films. It's just because I like playing with aspect ratio and framing, just kind of this blacking out frames. Sometimes I'll just take a small window and zoom in, and kind of enjoy that. But I remember, when I was talking to the crew about it, all that, the sides of this wall will just be blacked out, we'll do. And people not really totally getting it. And I wasn't sure if it would work, to be honest. But I kind of liked it. You want to we're making a film with the restrictions of being in a very small space. You think of other films that have done that, and a lot of times you're just looking at one person's face the whole time, and that's cool, but it's like I kind of wanted to explore other things to look at in that environment, and other ways to kind of make it interesting. And also, there was a bit of a gradual, I kind of wanted to start the film where we were very close. You couldn't really see the peripherals, and felt very claustrophobic. And then eventually, as the movie progresses, the shots get a bit wider and wider, and you get to see a little further and further. And sometimes, I like the cross-section thing sometimes when you go the widest and there's just kind of black everywhere else. But I don't know, it was something I was exploring myself. And you don't, you can build these vase sets where someone's in it, and have these mechanical things where you're rolling it, but or half of it's cut open, but you really don't know exactly how it's going to work until you do it. So it was a nice challenge.
Yeah, it adds a really nice kind of painterly quality, I think, to a lot of the shots, and and as you said, it kind of gets the movie away from this sort of gimmick of claustrophobia, or these kinds of buried alive kind of narratives, which are all about the claustrophobia, as opposed to maybe the possibilities within that space. And I really enjoyed that. Something else as well, I think on a sort of story level, the really interesting thing is that the movie ends up being a lot about a sort of kind of a romantic betrayal, on top of or even perhaps more so than a sort of corporate betrayal or a betrayal of science or
Yeah,
nature
sure.
over man or whatever. How important was it for you to retain that sort of human element to the story?
Well, it was there. There were a lot of themes we were kind of looking at when we were making this. When we were writing this. When I was writing this with my co-writer partner Darcy Spotto, and yeah, I mean, we like to have a relationship at the heart of our stories, I think, and we thought it would be interesting to do. This is largely it's that beast story breakup but kind of told in reverse through flashbacks, which is kind of seemed interesting. We've done flashbacks every film, and the thought of telling it backwards is kind of neat because breakups are messy, and they kind of end. They can they tend to end in a messy way, and but it's kind of nice seeing it play out the other way, where how did this start? What kind of the positive end of it. So if you're looking at a breakup story in horror, it'd be you could be pretty conventional to do it the other way. I don't know if it was a good idea or not, but I enjoyed it. It made it interesting for me, and I kind of liked seeing the best moments of their relationship at the end when it kind of crisscrosses like this with the other timeline. So on other timeline. So it was kind of a neat contrast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
I
it
don't
does.
know if that
I mean, it does, and watching the film, and it does also sort of become this nice device, right, where it also sort of plays into her memory, or rather, like you follow her sort of reconstituting a sort of sense of self and memory within the can, within the pod, and
yeah.
and then which also sort of nicely fills in the bits of the story that you need as a spectator. I thought that was quite neat.
Well, as flashbacks too, I do kind of see all of our films as kind of dreams.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's where I'm kind of drawing the most influence from, that kind of surreal subconscious space. And end up there. But with one thought of mine was, if you were to person were to be suspended or trapped in a frozen state, like what kind of dream or nightmare would you have for that indefinite period? What would that be like? And that was kind of a thought. If this whole thing could be a dream, what would that feel like? And I don't know, that was something I was drawing from.
That's really interesting. So the maybe this is maybe a bit of a sensitive question or something, but the film premiered in Sitges in the fall, and to my surprise was received with a bit of resistance or a bit of apprehension, as far as I could tell. Do you think there's maybe a disconnect between what people expect from this kind of isolation narrative, and then what, like as you said, your project as a filmmaker, which to me is always about sort of experimenting with genre, with memory, with a sort of dream-like fabric?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's our films are always a little like that, and the film is kind of, in a way, it could be seen as two films, and it was kind of like that by design when we wrote it. Almost having definitely having
two
two
chapters,
parts. And they're very different from each other in a way. So in some ways, I can see that being maybe a hang up, or defying someone's expectations, which doesn't always feel good. But I think there'll definitely be an audience for this film. strange film. And, with the sci-fi stuff, it doesn't do what a sci-fi film you might expect a sci-fi film like this to do, and it definitely doesn't, totally fulfill that man in a coffin type of narrative, which we kind of didn't want to do anyway because we're kind of sick of it, to be honest. But I don't know. I just hope people, parts they don't understand, they'll have a rewatch and maybe they will understand, and in some capacity. And I hope, people like it for what it is. I really just, and we make the films for ourselves in a selfish way, and I really like it. So.
It's also artiness versus horror. So it's like, there's that balance that Seth and I walk, even in our music, between
sometimes people like it to be DIY or radio rock.
Exactly.
They don't want it in the middle.
They don't want this like both. Like
but I'm happy with what we did. I think some people like it, hopefully.
Yeah. No, it was definitely my vibe as well. So yeah, that was great. I wanted also to mention, I read that Mike Jensen provided some character design and as well as Alan Cook being in charge of your VFX, which I find really spectacular in the film. There's something really delightfully sort of retro futuristic about the tin cans themselves, and at the same time there's something kind of late 80s, very gooey, about the coral. I would even push it to late 80s, early 90s kind of, and it's practical effects kind of aesthetic, and then the gold suits. How did you conceive of the look of the film, and how was that collaboration like?
We just had a lot of people involved. I remember, so I specifically, I saw my approach to it was to, I didn't want to make it a super tech movie like a lot of these sci-fis are. I'm not really interested in that. And I was more kind of seeing it as a very primitive future. And I was inspired by, kind of a medieval dungeon look. That's kind of what I was going for. And so, I was thinking about that Disney film, actually, Black Hole. They kind of did that a little bit. So yeah, I mean, and it makes because we don't really do too much CGI, VFX. It's more practical if we can help it. And so in a way it was easier, but it was, a lot more building. And Mike Jensen, he designed some stuff in Destiny, and they kind of did a similar thing in a way when I was kind of looking into like a medieval science fiction future stuff, that would come up. And he was just kind of excited about the project, and we were able to collaborate. He could translate my weird drawings, and it was kind of neat because we totally did it remotely. I think he's in California or somewhere on the West Coast.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Alan, so we did that remotely as well in a way. And Paul Hammond also worked on some of those prosthetics. So he's been a long time kind of artistic partner of mine, and he was in Toronto at that time too. So that was kind of interesting. But largely, I just did a lot of. I was an illustrator, and so I just did a ton of drawings of what I was kind of envisioning, and just gave it to all these guys, and they totally took it over and went beyond. And
we had
Matt Likely too, who was
super production designer, Matt Likely, who does all the weird stuff here in Nova Scotia, and kills it.
Yeah, I remember saying, we definitely need a corridor that's this long, and we need I always think bigger than the budget, and to a fault. And totally pulled off, and it was just phenomenal. And our costume team were amazing too. Sarah Haydenway.
They made those suits, were made 3D printed.
Right, and yeah, and Nathan too. Yeah, the suits. That's the one thing when we wrote this, we were like, if we ever make this, we're gonna have to actually make these like weird exoskeletons. You know, the idea was that we were looking at space and how you can have your imprisonment can move from different spaces until it's a prison of armor, and yeah, when you're writing on a page, it's a lot different than when you're actually making an armor suit that has to fit like 4 or 5 different people.
Yes.
And your budget's,
not
low.
A lot, and and it's cold or it's hot.
Yeah.
They have to wear it all day, and
yeah. So, but the actors that wore those suits were troopers, and the team that built them, they totally did a great job. They weren't, it was definitely one of the struggles we had, but it was kind of a fun part too, because the suits, I think the actors will say themselves that the suits kind of informed some of their acting decisions, and it was very entertaining for me while I was watching it, and it helped, inform my decisions with it too, and they actually kind of helped the character.
Darcy, the co-writer, he actually played the copper attendant, he actually made wooden soles for his shoes to put in his shoes so that it would be
more painful
so that he could look like he was like struggling. So and it worked.
Yeah.
He was physically but it's his own decision. So
he looks
good times.
We had to come up with weird devices for them because it would take so long to get in those suits and out of those suits. Like they'd have to think Darcy had a hook or something he was suspended from just to sit down for a second for breaks. It was interesting.
Just to get that little stiffness in the performance, just right. Maybe to finish, I was curious about just Nova Scotia and the Nova Scotian film industry, which famously made the headlines in 2018 when they cut the tax credits, and I was curious to hear from you how it is now, and how just how are things now.
It's like it's coming back around. Like the screen industry here has really done a lot of work to try and like rally and get everything back. Like, I mean, it's not back the way that it was, but it's on track, and we're going to be having an election soon, so hopefully they're going to put some stuff back. Like, I don't know, perhaps, but mostly they recently did put some of it back. So apparently the Nova Scotian, our people coming here to shoot this summer is like massive, and every single person is used up here, and like it's pretty exciting overall.
Yeah, I mean it has been hard when some of the film funding went down, and we lost a bit of crew to Toronto, where a lot of people, and even when we're doing we still have to hire some people from Toronto instead of hiring from Halifax. And there's just we lost a lot of friends, really. But there's hope, I think. And
people are coming back.
And this definitely this festival season, I think there's going to be a lot of great films from Halifax that a lot of filmmakers have been waiting for kind of COVID to pass, and but there's a good slew of content coming out, so we're pretty excited, and for more productions to come too.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, and once again, really, really happy to have you, and really happy to have Tin Can, and thank you for letting us show it in these conditions. Thank you so much, Seth.
Thanks so much for having us. And
thank you so much, Nancy.
for watching. Cool. All right. See ya.